top jurists are set to vie for 4 superior court positions starting from today. They will appear before the Judicial Service Commission in Johannesburg. In previous years, the JSC came under scrutiny on how it handled its interview process. But senior legal minds will also be interviewed for 1 vacant seat that's on the Constitutional Court bench. Well, to discuss this, we are joined by legal expert Mpumelelo Zikalala. Mpumelelo, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think one of the big talking points, particularly in the interviews that we'll be seeing expected today, is that for the first time in a decade, half of the candidates are not judges. Why is that significant?
Good morning to you and also to your viewers. I think the explanation that has been stated is that, well, we are trying to tap into the minds of other jurists, not necessarily people that have been litigants of the Judicial Court, but people that are well vested with the law. And secondly, it's the decline in the number of people that are now eligible, or the decrease in the pool of potential judges or aspiring judges that you can be able to choose from. One can look at that and say maybe it's a good thing so that we have a diverse number of people that are sitting as jurists within the highest court in the land. Or it could be that it is a lack of focus when it comes to the increasing of the aspiring judges pool. They can be linked to the lack of proper and comprehensive instructions to legal practitioners, especially black legal practitioners. They can be linked into a not so defined way of making sure that we're able to train these individuals so that when they go to the Judicial Court, they're well trained and they're well vested when it comes to matters that they have to deal with at a later stage. So even though it might sound like a good thing, but to me, it is telling me that after 30 years, there's not much that has been done to make sure that the pool that we choose from, or that we choose potential judges from, is actually there, is actually comprehensive and is accessible to all.
Yeah, perhaps as we wrap up the conversation, we'll talk about what we need to do about that, because my understanding is that this post has been vacant since October 2021, with the JSC having advertised the post 4 times, and as you say, struggling to pull together a shortlist with enough candidates. So we'll talk a little bit about what we do then, from a developmental point of view, if you will, to start enlarging that pool. But I'm keen to talk about some of the candidates here of the 4, right? Some of them having had quite a bit of experience on the Concord bench, the likes of Alan Dodson. I mean, career highlights for Alan Dodson, and if you believe that he would be a great addition to the bench?
I would think that anyone who's supposed to sit there must have a bit of both. One is the technical knowledge. Have you been in the Concord? Have you argued that? You understand the technical issues which are being dealt with. Secondly, the social issues that are there. You not only take legal arguments and legal decisions or judgments, but at the end of the day, you are part of the social change in the transformation of the law as we know it. And many of the judgments that have been there have basically charged or designed the way in which government is doing their work. So you need a balance of the two. So if you're going to have an individual, in fact on all 4 of them, who are going to better understand what exactly means to sit in that particular seat and to take decisions which are pro development. That's what we need at the end of the day. And also someone who's going to be cognizant in the manner in which government is working, whether the efficiencies and whether they're doing something good, but mostly must be for the good of the people, so that justice is not only listened to, you can actually see and say, we went to the Concord, we won our case, and here are the results of what we have won.
Yeah, so he's a senior counsel. We've also got Professor David Bilchitz, who is a legal academic. Let's talk a little bit about what that could mean and that contribution, what that could be going into the bench, having a legal academic joining the 4.
From an academic side, it's all well and good. You have someone who's going to better understand what those what the writers of the textbooks and the principles that are there actually mean, and a better understanding of that. But some may say, well, where is the experience when it comes to adjudicating matters? Where is the experience in terms of listening to legal arguments? Where is the experience when it comes to other intricacies that are there? Not only when the law is being written down, but the actual practicing of the law. Are you willing to have someone who's not going to have that type of experience sitting in that particular seat? If the answer is yes, then there must be some things which are going to be compensated along the way. And some may say, well, you're not sitting alone. There are other jurists that are there who are going to compensate from the legal compliance side, the technical compliance side. So it's all well and good. You have someone who's not going to have that much experience when it comes to litigating in the Concord. But as we have it, anyone who's going to sit in any position must at least have been on the other side, have tasted what it feels like to be a litigant, so that you understand how to extract that important information.
The likelihood that you see someone like Tati Makhoka of the Supreme Court of Appeal then being successful. I mean, just recently he's had a very high-profile matter. In fact, that we'll be discussing at 7:30 on Friday. He delivered that judgment in the Makwakwa case. And just to give our viewers a little bit of context here, this was a case that really was about a classified 2021 intelligence report about U.S. intelligence gathering of political parties, particularly around ANC factional battles as well. And essentially in that ruling, Makhoka finding that there was really overturning the ruling by the Gauteng High Court that independent media cannot publish that report. So just what you think that case, really does for, I suppose, his legacy and what he brings forward and what people understand about what he could bring to the Constitutional Court.
It is certainly a booster. Well, he's someone who basically was raised through the ranks, or was rising through the ranks, been on the SCA, knows very well what it means to be a presiding officer in the high stakes or in the second highest court of the land. And also when it comes to groundbreaking decisions, as the one that you've mentioned earlier, is someone that has charted those waters. That's exactly the type of individual that we need to sit in that seat. Someone who's going to say to us, as the highest court in the land, this is the trajectory and the interpretations in which I'm applying to the principles. But most importantly, I'm not applying those principles in a blank space. I want to do it in a context which is socially cohesive and in a context in which you're going to have the law assisting us in getting the type of justice that you are looking for.
Yeah.
So you might be a candidate which is going to score very high.
Okay, I'm running out of time, unfortunately, and I wanted to get into the fourth candidate, but we can certainly do that as the day unfolds, and I imagine that as those interviews take place, there'll be more than enough time to analyze each candidate. But that final question, Mpumelelo, before I let you go, how do we start expanding that pool so that we're not going back to what we did when we appointed the very first Constitutional Court bench, when we're saying that, that was the very first one, of course, had many members of it that were not judges, and we're back there again, it seems, with the candidates. How do we expand the pool? What do we need to be doing?
Focus on how instructions are given out from government. Government is the biggest buyer of legal services, and yet there's no focus on even attention of who gets those instructions. Make sure that from your national, provincial, and even municipalities, it's a clear line that says, at the end of the day, we want to train as many individuals as possible to make sure that they're able to deal with every discipline of law that they have. Focus on the Office of the State Attorney. Some of them are overworked. Decrease that workload by engaging private legal practitioners to assist. In doing that assistance, we are then going to have a number of legal practitioners that are trained. And then lastly, make sure that when it comes to acting positions, that particular process is clear and it is transparent to say, if you want to be an acting judge, for example, what are the steps that you need to follow? What training do you need to do? What type of services do you need to render? So that if you want to propel yourself toward that particular career, you start at an early age. If you do that and you focus on those things, then I'm sure that the JSC is not going to have any problem in getting the right individuals to be there. The increased pool, because they would have trained themselves, they would have been exposed to work at an early stage. Right now, we have a veil of secrecy as to how these instructions are actually given out, with even the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition sitting on a charter that should have been signed a long time ago, so that it enables this type of process from going through, and it charters a clear way when it comes to government departments, when it comes to the procurement of legal services.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. We really, really do appreciate it and look forward to chatting some more in the future. Legal experts there, Mpumelelo Zikalala speaking to us. All right, just